A late-night call with a father ends with a frantic, unexplained yell and a dead phone line. A man sprints through an airport terminal shouting in terror, never to be seen again. And a young woman steps into a car after a casual phone call, only to disappear without a trace. These are terrifying last things people said before disappearing. Lars Mittank was a 28-year-old from Germany vacationing with friends in Bulgaria in 2014. Things started off normal enough, but after a fight with some other tourists, Lars injured his ear and was told by a doctor that he couldn't fly. So his friends went home and he stayed behind alone. That's when his behavior started getting strange. He texted his mom to tell her that he was scared and felt like someone was following him. He also asked her to cancel his credit card. A few days later, he went to Varna Airport planning to catch a flight home, but during a routine checkup with the airport doctor, something spooked him. A construction worker reportedly entered the room and Lars panicked. He jumped up, ran out of the office, left his luggage behind. He was caught on security cameras sprinting through the terminal, out the doors, and into the nearby woods. As he fled, he reportedly shouted, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." That was the last anyone ever saw of him. There are tons of online theories as to what happened here, everything from psychosis to kidnapping, but no trace of Lars has ever been found. On the night of November 9th, 1995, 21-year-old Jo Dullard was hitchhiking back home to Callan, Ireland after a day in Dublin. She missed her bus, so she started catching rides instead. By the time she reached the small village of Moon, it was getting late. She stepped into a phone booth to call a friend, and while they were talking, she casually ended the call with, "I have a lift," and that was it. Jo hung up, got into a car with someone, but never made it home. Her backpack was found a few days later, but she was gone. No one came forward to say they picked her up. There were no major clues, no witnesses who could place her after the call. For years, this was a missing persons case, until it was officially reclassified as an unaliving investigation in 2020. But even now, police have no idea what really happened to her. But somewhere between that phone booth and her destination, Jo disappeared. Brandon Swanson was 19 when he vanished on May 14th, 2008 in Minnesota. After a small end-of-semester party, he got in his car and started driving home late at night. Around 2 a.m., he called his parents to say he'd run off the road near Lynn. He decided to walk toward what he thought were town lights. Stayed on the phone with his dad for almost an hour describing where he was. His father drove around, flashing his headlights, hoping Brandon would see him, but he never did. Then suddenly Brandon said, "Oh shh," and the line went dead. His phone stayed on for a few hours, but he never picked up again. Authorities later found his car near another town, not Lynn, over 20 miles away from where he thought he was. Till this day, there's been no sign of him. Just his car abandoned in the middle of nowhere. Michael McClain, a social worker, was out at a club in New Hampshire on April 20th of 2019. A fight broke out and Mike reportedly tried to de-escalate it. Then at around 2 a.m. he calls his boss and he leaves a frantic voicemail. "They're after me," he says. More than one. No one's entirely sure who they were or why he thought he was being followed. Mike's phone last pinged near a McDonald's just a few blocks away from the club, and a few witnesses claimed that they saw him nearby, but he didn't go home, he didn't show up for work, he stopped posting on social media, his bank cards were never used again. There were no obvious signs of a struggle though, and no confirmed sightings after that night. Investigators have never been able to figure out what scared Mike so much or who he was referring to. Did it have something to do with the altercation at the club, or was it something else entirely? On January 26th of 2017, 58-year-old Will Cierzan was having a completely normal afternoon at home in Santa Clarita, California. He watched golf with his nephew, chatted for a bit, and later called his wife Linda at around 4:30, telling her, "I'm putting dinner on." Totally routine, until it wasn't. That was the last time anyone heard his voice. When Linda came home around 6 p.m., the food was cooked, the oven was off, and everything in the house looked untouched. His coat, keys, wallet, and the family dog were all still there, but Will was gone. A neighbor's security camera showed a white SUV pulling up to his garage shortly before he disappeared. Police later identified it as belonging to a family member, but it didn't lead anywhere. Weeks later, investigators found traces of red inside the home. His nephew, the last person to see him, was named a person of interest, and he was arrested in 2020. He pled guilty and admitted to dumping his uncle's body. He was given a pretty lenient sentence of 11 years after making a plea deal. Tara Calico is a college student in Belen, New Mexico. She went for a morning bike ride on September 20th of 1988. Before leaving, she jokingly told her mom, "If I'm not back by noon, come looking for me." At the time, it just seemed like a passing comment, maybe because she'd had close calls with cars on that route before. This time though, she never came back. Her mom searched the area and found part of Tara's Walkman and a broken cassette tape along the road, but there were no signs of a crash or a struggle other than that. Weeks later, a photo turned up in a Florida parking lot. It showed a young woman and a boy both tied up and gagged. The woman resembled Tara, and some believe it really was her, but experts never agreed. And over the years, the case spiraled into one of the most well-known missing persons cases in the US. There were unconfirmed sightings, possible suspects, and even a sheriff's claim that she was killed by local teens and her body was hidden, but no hard evidence has ever come out. Marion Barter was a teacher in Australia who suddenly disappeared in 1997. She'd sold her house, said she was heading to England for a break, and stayed in contact with her family for a few weeks. But then one day she called her daughter from a payphone and ended the call with, "I'll call you back." She never did though. Then a cheerful voicemail turned up a few days later saying she was having tea in Tunbridge Wells. After that, nothing. Her bank account back in Australia started seeing large cash withdrawals though, all made in person, thousands of dollars gone, but Marion wasn't in Australia. At least no one thought she was. She never contacted her family again. There were no confirmed sightings, no passport records, no digital trail. Decades later, a podcast helped reignite public interest in the case though, and investigators opened a fresh inquiry. They discovered that Marion had changed her name before leaving, possibly to avoid being found by someone. Her daughter now believes that Marion may have been in danger, caught up in something she had no way of getting out of without taking on a new identity and running away. In August of 2018, a 21-year-old man named Matthew Weaver dropped a friend off after a night out and then drove into the mountains outside Malibu, California. The next morning, around sunrise, he posted a scenic photo to Snapchat, a wide, peaceful view of the Santa Monica Mountains. That was the last normal moment anyone can confirm. A few hours later, Matthew sent a string of unsettling messages to a friend saying, "Some crazy is going on," and more chillingly, "I just want to talk while I have the chance." No one heard from him after that. Hikers later reported hearing screams in the area though, and someone yelling, "He's got a gun." Matthew's car was found abandoned near a remote trail, but his keys and phone were gone. Months later, hikers discovered those same keys just 25 feet from the vehicle, along with a torn shirt and a hat believed to be his. Despite searches with helicopters, dogs, and drones, nothing else ever turned up. No sign of a body, no idea what he meant in his final texts. Maura Murray, a nursing student, vanished on February 9th of 2004. That day, Maura emailed her professors to say she'd been taking a week off from school due to a family emergency, but no one in her family was actually in distress. Then Maura packed her car with clothes and personal belongings and set off, telling a friend she was going to New Hampshire for a brief break, but Maura never made it to her destination. Her car was found crashed on a remote road. A passing motorist called 911, and when police arrived, they found the car was abandoned, but personal items, including her purse, were still inside. Maura had even left her cell phone behind. No trace of her has ever been found. Some think foul play may have been involved, others think that she could have staged her own disappearance, but the truth remains to be seen. Amy Lynn Bradley was 23 when she vanished from a cruise ship in the Caribbean in 1998. She'd been out drinking and dancing on the ship the night before, then returned to the cabin she shared with her family. Her brother Brad said they talked for a bit, and she told him, "I love you," before she went to sleep. By morning, she was gone. The cabin door was left open, and there were a few early morning sightings of her walking on deck. After that, though, there was nothing. The ship docked and continued on its route. Amy never got off, but somehow she wasn't on board either. Over the years, there have been a number of possible sightings of Amy in Caribbean countries, including one woman who claimed that she saw her being forced into a car. Another claimed that Amy approached her in a bathroom and begged for help, saying she was being held against her will. None of these reports were confirmed, though, and no hard evidence ever came about. Amy's parents believe she was trafficked. Authorities haven't ruled it out, but after more than 25 years, we still don't have any solid answers. Well, I've been your host, James, and I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.